to kind of wrap up the meeting and get us thinking, not just about actual, events and planning, logistics and stuff, I just wanted to get us kind of reflecting a little bit about, bless you.
Bless you.
It's my roommate, everybody. Yeah! Shout out. Anyways, no, I want to get people here reflecting about, like, this seems like too big of a topic that I'm not even going to come close to covering, but like kind of what it means to be a Catholic and like what our mission is, as believers and what we want to do. And I guess the first thing I wanted to say was that we know like God loves us, and He loves us so much in just ways that we can't even possibly understand. But one of the ways that I think not very many people think about that He shows us that He loves us is that He gave us a church. And if you think about that, I mean, the church guides so much of what we do. And if we didn't have like a guiding force, like if Jesus had never established, like, you heard in the video earlier that from the very beginning, Jesus founded the church and said, Peter, you are Peter, and on this rock I build my church. And he was the first pope, and it's continued until the present day. And maybe some of you guys have heard this time and time again, but I think it's really important to emphasize that because we need the church. It's not like we're not a Christian denomination, or even really a denomination at all, but like a Christian denomination that says that it depends on what you decide that you believe. It's not about like what I think is true just because I thought about it or because I feel a certain way. And it's not to say like that the church is imposing like rules on you and it's oppressive. It's like, no, the church has the Holy Spirit. And that's the beautiful thing about it, because we know that since God is inspiring the church, it's like it can't be wrong with the teachings, And so I think a lot of people just don't know necessarily how to even distinguish, like if someone asks them, well, okay, how is it different to be a Catholic than some other type of Christian, I mean, we all believe in Jesus, right? Yeah, and there are a lot of different, commonalities, but I think that the key, or I don't know, I haven't thought about it enough to say like the key difference is, but I think for one of the main, if not the main difference, is that we believe that there's okay, some other Christians believe this too, but we believe, I'll rephrase this in my mind, we believe that there is one true church, and that church is the Roman Catholic Church. So I want to talk, let that sink in a little bit. It may sound shocking that, okay, like one true church, like, what are you trying to say? Like, you're just so full of yourselves that, you think you're better than everyone else? But that's not what it's about. So here are some things that one true church doesn't mean. A, it doesn't mean that we're arrogant. It doesn't mean that we think that we're morally better than people who aren't Catholics, because there are plenty of, like, Catholics who do awful things. All of us probably have and do. I mean, we sin. We all sin. So we're not trying to say that we're better than other people in morals. And we're also not trying to claim that we're not arrogant either, saying that, because if you think about it, if you're Catholic and that's what you believe, then why would you believe it if you didn't think it was true? So a lot of people think it's arrogant to say, I believe this is the truth. But that's just a statement. Like, I could say, I believe this is the Fine Arts Building, but then someone else like says, no, I don't think that's the Fine Arts Building, and they could call me arrogant for saying that this is the Fine Arts Building. But like, that's what I know, and like, that's what I believe, so like, I believe that's true, So like, don't be afraid to say like that you believe what you believe, and that you believe that it's true, I think another thing that one true church doesn't mean is that we believe that other religions are false. Because just because we say our religion is true, that doesn't mean that other religions are false. Depending on the religious belief, I mean, there's a huge spectrum all over the world, but there are so many commonalities between what we believe and so many other religions. And when you really study religion, as maybe a lot of you have, you find those, and there are so many similarities, and I think that's beautiful because it shows how God has revealed himself, like already just even within people's hearts and just within their very human natures. But we just don't believe that all the other religions are necessarily like the fullness of the truth. And again, that makes sense, because if you were a Muslim, for example, you probably would think that the Islamic religion was more true than anything else. So again, don't think that that's arrogant to say. And then finally, another thing that one true church does not mean is that everything, we're not trying to say either that everything the church does or everything church leaders say is true or is good. Because as probably all of us know, the Catholic Church has had, a lot of bad reputation in the past for a lot of different reasons. And so we don't claim that the people within the church are perfect, and we don't believe that everything that bishops or even the Pope sometimes says is necessarily true. We just believe that okay, well, I'll get into what it does mean. But I think one of my favorite sayings about that is that the church is not a museum for saints. It's a hospital for sinners. So just because we say we believe the church is true and we believe that it's the fullness of the truth, it doesn't mean that we think that we're perfect as people either. So what does one true church mean? Here are some things that, from my reflection, that I think it means, and that I would be willing to say that it means. I said A the last time, but I never said B or C. Anyways, it's really rhetorical. Anyways, A, it does mean that the official teachings of the church are true. The things that are in the catechism, the dogmas, things that have been officially proclaimed, we believe those to be true. B, I'm improving. B, it means that we have a responsibility to stand up for this truth, Like, we can't sit back and say, well, I believe that, but if questioned or if it's hard, then I can just, kind of take a back seat. Like, that's not what Jesus calls us to do. So that means a couple things as well. We have a responsibility, some people more than others, depending on your life circumstances, but we have a responsibility to learn about our faith. We have a responsibility to understand better, like, what we believe and what the church teaches so that we can more effectively explain and witness to others. And it also means, when we stand up for the truth, that we need to stand up for it in our actions. Obviously I don't think any of you guys want to be hypocrites, so if you say you believe something, then act on it. A comment, this university, some of you, maybe a lot of you are freshmen, like kind of Anya said, this university is not a friendly place, there are obviously good and bad parts of everywhere, but just in my experience here, that, this university can be a huge threat to your faith and just to morality in general, but don't be afraid of that because, we have Christ and we have our fellow brothers and sisters to back us up and to support us, and we should also expect this, that we would have challenges in our faith, because also there is an enemy in all this, Satan. He doesn't want us to follow Christ. He doesn't want us to be good people or to witness to our faith or to bring others to the faith. And that's what I'm going to get into next, is the final thing that I think one true church means, is that we should seek to bring others into this truth. And it's not because we think, just because we want to be right. It's because we think it's good for them. We believe this is what's best for people. And it's also not because we think that if they don't become Catholic, then they're definitely going to hell. That's not it either. Like, there are a lot of considerations, and we can't judge people's hearts. But we also do believe that being a Catholic is the best way to get to heaven, through all the ways that it's been revealed to us. So why wouldn't we want to spread that to other people and to bring them in, so that we can all, in the end, at the end of our lives, be with Christ and be with God in eternal bliss forever. That's what it's about. It's about love, and it's about uniting ourselves with God. So just a few closing remarks. Again, I said earlier, a lot of people think that the church is just restrictive and has all these rules and expects us to follow their teachings because the church just wants power and wants subjects. But it's actually these rules that free us. And that may sound strange, but if we didn't have guidelines in life, we would become slaves to our passions and slaves to sin, and all kinds of bad things. So Christ wants to free us from ourselves, like our fallen nature, I mean, we are created good, and we're created in God's image, but we have flaws as well. And in order to best fulfill His plan for us, we must strive to be one, and that means to be one with each other, within our church, to be one in what we believe, and in how we support each other. And it also means, we should strive to be one with all people in all the world, so that hopefully we can all just be one in heaven, And that's the hope that we need to hold on to be able to get through this life. And that takes me into our theme for the year. I'm sorry, I'm not sure what time it is, so I apologize if I've gone over that. Okay. So if anyone needs to leave, I don't know. We usually try to keep these an hour, but it's a big reveal. The curtain's coming up. Our theme for the year is from John 17, verse 22, that they may be one. And just a background about this passage. It's such a beautiful passage in the Bible, and it doesn't occur in any of the other Gospels. It's called, a lot of times, Jesus' priestly prayer. And it's basically Him praying for us. It's Him praying for priests, but also praying for just the whole church and for all people, who believe in Him. And, how cool that we get to see what He said when He was praying for us. And the best, and it occurs also, interestingly, right before His passion begins, right before Judas betrays Him, and that gives it a lot of meaning. So to close the evening, we'll have a few logistic remarks at the end about practical stuff, but I want to share with you guys a song that is based on this passage, and hopefully it gets you reflecting about what He wanted to say to us and what He was feeling in His heart when He was praying for us, that we may be one.